My name is Mia. I'm 28 years old, working part-time. I have two adorable daughters with my husband, Alex. They attend elementary school and preschool, respectively. Next to our family home is a separate dwelling unit where my mother-in-law, who dislikes children, currently lives alone. She was causing problems within our family for quite a long time. She would often complain by saying, back in the day, things were different. She would impose her own rules and target my young daughters since she couldn't seem to confront my husband and me directly. Whenever my daughters were watching movies on a tablet, she would take the tablet away, scolding, in my time. We were allowed to watch TV only for a certain amount of time, let alone movies, as if to teach them about enduring without entertainment. There was a time when we did everything ourselves, she once said, stripping my daughters of their muddy clothes and shoes. Trying to make them wash those in a basin. When they refused, she yelled at them, "You two are such bad kids." Although my daughters didn't quite understand why they were being scolded, her harsh words and frightening demeanor often made them cry. Far from feeling sorry, my mother-in-law would mock them, saying, "Crying to get your way?" That would never have been tolerated in my time. Of course, I'd repeatedly asked her to address her concerns to me instead of the children. But she seemed to think that she wouldn't get caught and continue her behavior. At some stage, it had gotten so bad that I even tried to retaliate. I deleted the TV series she had asked me to record, and when she predictably flew into a rage, I retorted, "Back in your day. Enduring without entertainment was expected, wasn't it? Why are you so upset over the deleted episodes?" And when she asked me to do her shopping, I refused, saying, "Since you insist on making my daughters do everything themselves, surely you, an adult, can do your own shopping." However, my attempts to make her see things logically didn't have the desired effect. I was at my wit's end, worrying about how to ensure peace at home and let my daughters grow happily. When my mother-in-law crossed the line. One day, I was late coming home from work and missed picking up my elder daughter from the school bus. I quickly drove back home to find her sobbing with her backpack still on and my mother-in-law standing right in front of her, looking at her coldly. When I demanded to know what happened, my mother-in-law explained as if it were obvious, kids are way too pampered nowadays. Relying on school buses and childcare buses only weakens their legs. Back in my day, parents never picked up their kids from the bus stop. So we walked everywhere. When I asked my daughter, Emily, she tearfully said, "Grandma said that kids who ride the school bus are weak and spoiled. And that they'll be disliked by everyone when they grow up. I don't want that, so I'm not going on the bus anymore." We live in a rural area, so her school is more than a 2-hour walk away. In this day and age, it's not only dangerous for small children to walk such distances due to safety concerns, but it's also exhausting for them and could negatively affect their studies. To scare a child with the threat of being disliked by others was just unthinkable. Crying won't solve any situation. With her usual parting shot, my mother-in-law left. I just couldn't forgive her. I thought to myself that I had to teach her a thorough lesson. That was when the perfect idea for revenge popped into my head, and I immediately acted on it. The effect of my retaliation became evident the next day, on Saturday evening. Hearing the incessant ringing of the doorbell, I opened the front door to find my mother-in-law, pale-faced. I had an inkling of the reason, but I asked her anyway, and she said that when she was about to go out shopping, she noticed my car was missing from the front yard. I scrapped my car. I casually informed her, as if I were discussing the weather. "Yesterday, you mentioned how spoiled the kids were these days and that back in your day, people walked everywhere. It made me realize how you'd been begrudgingly using my car, so I decided it was time to reflect on that." "What?" "There was no point in keeping the car if nobody wanted to use it. It would cost us more money on tax just to keep it. So I called a dealer and had it picked up this morning," I said with a beaming smile, as if I were expecting praise. My mother-in-law was speechless at first, only to snap back to reality and start yelling at me. "How dare you do such a thing without permission? When did this even happen?" The dealer I knew was quick to come for the car, and the whole process was done in an hour. The car was in my name, so I didn't need to inform my mother-in-law, who was having a nap at that time. And the collection was over before she knew it. I explained, adding apologetically, "It was very careless of you to leave the car key in the garage. If you had kept it inside your home, I might have informed you before the car was picked up. She probably remembered her past remarks about not bothering with keys back in the day. As her face twisted in frustration. You should have at least informed me, regardless of the keys situation. How am I supposed to go to work from Monday? Don't you have any compassion? Am I the one lacking compassion? That's harsh. Didn't I just tell you that I sold the car with your best interests in mind? Considering how much you dislike cars? But I never said I disliked cars. Annoyed by her excuses at this point, I decided to end the conversation. I appreciate that you were unwillingly driving my car around all these years. From Monday onwards, feel free to walk anywhere you need to go. On your own 2 feet. I said loudly and slammed the front door shut. She immediately started ringing the doorbell, but I chose to ignore it. Remembering the shocked look on her face, I laughed to my heart's content. I was curious to know what she would do, but it seemed that she managed to walk to work without any issue. I had hidden my bicycle, which I used for grocery shopping, and told my husband not to give her his car key. Considering she's too stingy to even buy a grocery bag, opting to carry things by hand instead, I doubted she'd choose to take a taxi. As it rained on her first day of walking to work, I felt a bit sorry for her while looking outside, and then the phone rang. It was just after 9 a.m. The call was from her work, saying she hadn't arrived yet. Walking there might take her about 3 hours. Not wanting to cause undue concern, I explained the situation to the person on the phone, and got a thoughtful response. So she's like that with her grandchildren too. Followed by a chuckle. The tardiness will count as a half-day absence, the office clerk cheerfully informed me. Indicating my mother-in-law wasn't particularly liked at her workplace either. Arriving late on her first day walking to work, my mother-in-law left home at 5 a.m. the next day, which was an hour earlier than before. Glancing my way, she began to murmur, "My legs are so sore, I wonder if I can even walk tomorrow." But I just brushed it off, saying, "That's just muscle pain. It's a sign of your legs getting stronger." That weekend, she finally asked me, "Can I borrow your bicycle on the days you're not using it?" When I refused, saying, "I might need it unexpectedly, so no, I can't let you use it," she suddenly got angry. "How could you be so cruel? Why can't I ride it when you're not using it?" I knew that she was having a hard time getting up early in the morning and walking to work for hours, which was making her legs sore. But she had no idea how to politely ask for a favor. After all, a bicycle is considered by law to be a vehicle. Didn't you say that people used to walk everywhere without relying on vehicles? Or was that a lie? When I pointed this out with a cold gaze, she was taken aback and then started rambling. "Of course, I knew that. I just thought I was going to allow you to do things for me." Since I felt zero compassion for her, I firmly said, "I cannot lend you my bicycle." "Fine. You cold-hearted woman," she retorted, and stormed off to her home. Her next move was to tattle to my sister-in-law. When my sister-in-law called me, she sounded apologetic throughout the conversation. And she had a reason to feel guilty towards us. Originally, my mother-in-law lived with my father-in-law in their family home. But they had to sell it to pay off his debts, and they moved into a rental house. After my father-in-law passed away and my mother-in-law could no longer afford the rent on her own, feeling lonely all by herself, she asked my sister-in-law to live with her. However, my sister-in-law had her hands full taking care of her husband's parents. Therefore she asked Alex, her brother, to take in their mother. "I'm sorry for leaving Mom in your care. To be honest, I don't know what to say when she calls me." As my mother-in-law disliked children, she would even make unpleasant remarks to my sister-in-law's kids over the phone. She insisted on walking everywhere and not relying on cars, so it's not a matter of whether I forgive her or not. Since my mother-in-law was the one imposing old-fashioned rules, it was high time she adapted to modern ways and bought a bicycle for herself. Still working, she could surely afford a bicycle. When I explained this to my sister-in-law, she seemed to agree, saying, "You're right." A new bicycle was delivered to our house 3 days after that phone call. It arrived on a weekday afternoon, likely ordered with the fastest shipping and without a specific delivery time, forcing me to receive it. Knowing my mother-in-law, she must have ordered it right after talking to my sister-in-law. When I looked at the brand new bicycle with a front basket, I got a brilliant idea. As soon as my mother-in-law came home, I rushed to greet her with a big smile. "We had delivery today. It was a bicycle." It was past 8 p.m., and although she looked exhausted, her face brightened up. "Oh, really?" But as soon as I said, "Thank you so much for getting me such a nice bicycle," she looked at me in shock. "What do you mean? I didn't know you were planning a surprise for me. That bicycle's not for you." "Really? But it's too big a bicycle for a kid, and Alex won't ride it, so who else but me?" I played dumb, pretending to be confused. Adding sarcastically, "Well, you wouldn't ride a vehicle anyway, right?" That left my mother-in-law speechless. "How can you be so spiteful?" she exclaimed. "Spiteful? I was merely following your example. I just did to you what you did to my daughters. Using those old rules of yours to bully them because they were in a weaker position, right? I simply used those same rules for my revenge. I thought I was disciplining them." She protested. "As I'm their mother, I'll handle the discipline. I told you so many times not to scold my daughters directly. Yet, you always interfered, making them cry and referring to the past. Cars are not good, so walk? Yet here you are, giving up walking after a week and immediately buying a bicycle." Faced with my unusual fervor, my mother-in-law turned pale and began to cry, which was unbecoming for someone of her age. "Did you think crying would solve everything? You said that wouldn't have been tolerated in the past, didn't you?" I didn't even feel sorry for my mother-in-law when she cried. Perhaps it was because I saw her making my daughters cry all of the time. "I don't know how things were in the past, but if you don't want to continue walking to work, I suggest you sincerely apologize to my daughters and forget those nonsensical old rules. If my daughters agree to forgive you, then you're free to do whatever you like." I left her standing there after making my point clear, not forgetting to add that I would check to see if she actually apologized. Soon after that, my mother-in-law did apologize to my daughters. Grandma said she was sorry for everything and asked if she could use the bicycle she just bought for herself, my daughters told me. Her lips were trembling when she apologized, they shared, giving me a glimpse of her begrudging apology, which made me laugh. Feeling sorry for her, they said she could use the bicycle. Since then, my mother-in-law has become quiet. She has noticeably started to avoid her grandchildren as if she had little or no interest in them. And it was a relief to know that we'll finally have peace in our house. I've made it clear that if she repeats her old behavior, she will have to leave, and I plan to keep a close eye on her. Interestingly, I heard that at her workplace, she's now referred to as the woman who can ride a bicycle. On her first day riding her bicycle to work, she miscalculated the time and arrived late again, which led to another call from her workplace, where I learned about her new nickname. When I informed the person on the phone that she had been granted permission by her grandchildren to use the bicycle, she said, "So she's no longer the woman who can't drive a car, but the woman who can ride a bicycle." Imagining my mother-in-law being teased by her younger colleagues made me chuckle.